for the rest of my life. Burning, jealousy is such a burning feeling and it's so irrational. And that was enough to bring me to my senses, and I started to cut off the relationship. It was very bad. I mean, it was very hard on her. Suddenly I stopped, going out with her, stopped seeing each other. And I was watching my mind at that time. Although I had not really learned the Satipatthana meditation, the only thing I knew was, you read D.T. Suzuki and Alan Watts and Paul Rebs, they just say, well, be in the present, here and now. Yeah, when you walk, just walk. When you eat, just eat. When you sleep, just sleep. Easier said than done. So, but I was also reading about very fundamental Theravada stuff, like Four Noble Truths, for example. There's suffering and the cause of suffering, and the cause of suffering is attachment, right? Or craving. So I watched my mind at the time, and I tried to verify those teachings. Whenever I felt suffering, whenever I felt displeased or there was displeasure in my mind, I would check to see what's the immediate cause. And I could see that it's actually craving, it's attachment. So very obvious. For example, this jealousy is a very irrational sort of emotion that arose. Well, I mean, I've not told her that I loved her. We have not really, come to an agreement that we are going steady. She's not my girlfriend officially, or my fiancée. Why should I have any attachment to her? I mean, when I analyzed my feelings at the time, that's what I saw. I said, this is really very irrational, and it's all based on on craving, on attachment, wanting someone for yourself. Right? You don't want to share with other people. And that's one of the basic ingredients of carnal love. Right? Yeah. Carnal love is like that. You only want someone for yourself and don't want to share with anybody else. That's in direct opposition to metta. Metta is whatever you love, you want to share with everybody else. And if somebody or something that you love, is being used by somebody else, you feel happy. Not in the case of carnal love, then you feel jealousy or envy. Okay, so I began to see in my daily life, as I watched my mind more and more, that actually what the Buddha said is true, that craving is the cause of suffering. Of course, that's only on a very superficial level, because the Buddha talks about a more fundamental sort of suffering. The suffering of coming back to be reborn, and then to age, and to be sick, and then to die, and then to repeat the cycle again and again. But what I was looking at is a more direct sort of suffering, direct mental suffering, and that is caused by attachment. So that led me to eventually drop out from SBM, from HBP, USM, because just couldn't see any point in studying, and because there was lack of interest, I was not doing too well in my grades, and in fact I was causing a lot of problems to my lecturers, questioning them a lot. So they were very happy when I left. Okay, anyway, that brings us to the subject of love again. If you look at my article, there's one verse that I quoted from, two verses that I quoted from the Dhammapada. Priyato Jati Soko, right? What does it say? Piyato Jayati Soko, Piyato Jayati Gaya, Iyato vipamuttassa natti soko kuto bhayam. From the love is born grief, from the love is born fear. For one totally freed from the love, there is no grief, whence fear. Pemato jayati soko, pemato jayati bhayam. Pemato vipamuttassa natti soko kuto bhayam. From love is born grief, from love is born fear. For one totally freed from love, there is no grief, whence fear. This is the sort of love, the carnal sort of love that is accompanied by attachment. Right? This is very, very, very obvious. You know, parents, for example, love their children very much. And if something happens to their children, what's going to happen? Yeah, there's going to be a lot of grief, right? For example, now, if you hear that there is a tsunami somewhere in China, or an earthquake somewhere in China, and you read in the paper so often nowadays, earthquakes are happening all over the world so often, it becomes like jiayi, you know, borasa, right? And well, it's just another piece of news. But what happens if, in that particular place, one of the children is there, or a loved one is there? How would you feel? Right? Devastating, isn't it? Then you will start to worry, what happened? What happened? Did she get hurt? Is she still alive? And so forth. So all this comes about because of attachment. And because you love something, if something happens to that something, then you're going to get in trouble. Right? So that sort of love is not encouraged by the Buddha, although that is something that keeps the whole world going. How would families remain as a family unit if there's no love binding them together, if there's no attachment binding them together? What happens is everybody, starts to practice vipassana meditation and sees just atoms and molecules in their spouses and their children. Yeah? What's going to happen? There's going to be havoc. So that's why even in the Buddhist teachings, I would like to say that there is a yin and a yang, although it's not specifically, explicitly stated in the Buddhist teachings, particularly in Buddhist meditation. The yin and the yang of Buddhist meditation are metta and vipassana. Yeah. Metta is required for you to unite communities and people, and vipassana is necessary for you to practice detachment at the appropriate time. Right? Metta must also be accompanied by wisdom. Without wisdom, if you have metta or karuna or compassion, you'll be so busy saving all the insects and the animals that you wouldn't have time to earn a living. Right or not? Yeah? Your metta and karuna must be tempered with wisdom. And the wisdom could be mundane wisdom, worldly wisdom, but if you do vipassana, you get a deeper understanding of what wisdom is. Your wisdom becomes deeper, more profound. Then you will be able to differentiate, distinguish between occasions when you need to exercise metta, or radiate metta, or practice metta, and at times when you need to practice upekkha, or equanimity. You've all heard of the 4 Brahma Viharas, right? The 4 divine abidings. First one is metta, loving kindness, unconditional love. The second one is karuna, compassion. The third is mudita, sympathetic joy. And the final one is equanimity, upekkha. The way to practice these Brahma Viharas is to start off with metta. You have loving kindness for all beings. And this is the object of metta are all beings who are not suffering. So you're just looking at them, because when you practice metta, you are trying to imagine that a person is in perfect health and in perfect mental, happiness, right? Peace of mind. When you practice karuna, compassion, the object or the object of your karuna are beings who are in trouble. Beings are in trouble, and when you see beings in trouble, there is this feeling that arises in you that wants to help them to be relieved of their suffering. And then the practice of mudita, or sympathetic joy, is focused on people who